Thank you. We're back from our recess, and with that, we'll move on to action item 7C, food service management company provider, Mika.
So this is a contract renewal. We switched to Chartwell's the current year, and we would like to renew the contract with them. And the proposal is increase the fee with CPI. CPI is food away from home CPI, which is 5.1%, and they increase the fee by that CPI percentage.
Good. Is there any public comment?
No comment.
Any comments, discussion from the board?
No, I'm just grateful that we have this. It seems like such a reasonable contract adjustment, and it seems like a really positive year so far with them as the vendor. So
Definitely.
happy to approve it again.
Great. Indeed.
Yeah, no, I see. I think the quality has improved dramatically. I will still talk about sugar. I found a little stash of sugary cereal from the school from one of my children this year. But overall, they're getting kids eat things they don't eat otherwise, and yeah, it's
Yes, absolutely. Great. Wonderful news all around. All right, with that, this is an action item. Do we have a motion?
This is Hillary. I move that the board approve the renewal contract with Chartwell's as food service management company for 2025-26.
Is there a second?
It's Katie. I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Mika, for bringing this forward. We're very excited.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I
Yeah.
didn't mean to ignore the sugar. We're going to be one now that this is going. Lindsay Walker is going to start working on the menus for next year. So I think that's a great discussion. We can start.
If I
on that too. Those make you smarter.
No, and look, I think there's been a dramatic improvement.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I just want to make sure. Yeah, so we're working on the menus as we move forward. So
Great, got it. All right, moving on to action item D. Brian.
Right. Pursuant to government code, all initial collective bargaining proposals of a school district or a union must be sunshine or shared with the public prior to the commencement of negotiations. And what you have before you is the California School Employees Association, Chapter 320, our bargaining unit for classified employees. You have their proposed articles for negotiations for the current year. Article 6, classification and reclassification. Article 9, pay and allowances, and Article 11, employee expenses and materials. So with that, we would hold a public hearing.
All right, thank you. This is a public hearing. I'll open a public hearing. Any discussion, comments from the board?
Just happy to see this on the agenda tonight. Yeah, likewise.
Progress. So with that, I will close the public hearing. Was there any other comments or discussion? And
there's no public comment.
Okay. All right, if this is an action item, is there a motion?
It's Katie. I move that we accept CSCA's collective bargaining proposal for 24-25.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you, Brian, for this. And now we move on to our discussion items. Before and after school care program update item, Kiva.
Right. Will really be Kiva. Well, Kiva. But we're excited to have Kiva here. We are in our second year of running our own VASC program. This year is different than last year still, so we have yet to have back-to-back same years. But Kiva will talk to us about all the changes and what's going on.
Yes, like Aida said, this is the second year of VASC. Lots of changes, lots of improvements that I feel like we're like getting into like a positive sequence, like moving forward in a lot of positive ways. And then we can go to the next slide, which is our mission statement, which is something that I have kind of been talking more with our staff about this year, because I think a lot of our staff don't know we have a mission statement, which is not to supervise children having free play for 5 hours, but it's actually to provide valuable programs for our students and our families and our school. A place that kids can go, that there's structure or free time. There's a wide range of activities. There's interactions with staff members, and we're, helping them develop their social emotional skills, among lots of other things. Next slide. Next one. So here's some overviews of each of our sites. So first is Dolphin Club at Del Rey. We have 2 portables there. One serves TKK and the other is first through fifth. This site is neck and neck our highest enrolled site right now. And then the next slide is Glorietta, which we also have 2 portables. We have 78 TK and our highest number of first through fifth graders there. And that's because the Glorietta community typically is the highest user of drop-in. And they might want to just come once a month or once every couple months and not come all the time. We have a lot more first through fifth graders enrolled there. And then our next slide is Coyote Club, which is a newer name this year for our Sleepy Hollow site. And we just got 2 new portables there this year, which was a huge improvement. They look really great. And our enrollment has gone up there this year too, so we're able to accommodate all those students with their beautiful new buildings. And then our last,
And they selected their new name.
right, Coyote Club.
Yes. The kids voted on that.
They did.
Yes.
Just that's.
Oh.
Just what? Fast, yes. They didn't want to be the only bass
That's
without a
cute.
name. Yes.
ASC, BSC.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know.
And then lastly, we have Bandit Club at Wagner Ranch. So this site has our highest enrollment, but our smallest facility. So we just have 1 building dedicated to basket at Wagner right now. And this school year, we're using TK classrooms as well as the STEAM lab. And we have our students broken up in 3 groups there. TK, first and second and third through fifth, just because there's so many kids and minimal space. And we have a lot of staff there too that also work at the school, which is a good partnership we have as well. And then our next slide will show our BAS usage. So as you can see, it's going up every single year. And the percentages there are listed as the percent of the students at that school that utilize the BAS program. So right now, overall in the district, we serve 41% of our students are attending BAS. And then the next slide shows that more broken down with age ranges. So we are serving 70% of TKK students at Del Rey. 70% of the TKK students that attend Del Rey are attending BAS. So our highest percentage, as you can see, is with the TKK. They get out earlier. Family needs, are wider there, where there's less of a need and not as many hours for the first through fifth graders who are at school a little bit longer, but also have a lot more after school activities.
You know how these percentages compare to our neighboring districts in terms of percent of students that we serve in our BAS program versus?
I don't know their exact numbers, but they're way
This is
lower.
high.
Yes.
Yeah, I just was curious.
Oh, yeah. They are way lower than
Yeah, than
us.
ours.
Yes,
Some models are frustrating too.
I know, I understand. I just, in terms of just messaging to our parent community in terms of what.
Yes. I think the one that would come maybe the closest would be Moraga because they also have their own owned
Right.
district program. But every other school site, because they have vendors that are coming in due to their very limited staff to child ratio, they're really limited to that. So I know they're really lengthy wait lists.
Really high
Yeah.
percentage of students.
Yes. We actually have that's a common inter-district transfer item is daycare.
I've had probably 5 parents in the last month email me to ask about the BAS program, who have 2 and 3-year-olds that are looking to babysit Orinda because BAS is available for all.
No, it's a big draw. Childcare is an issue in other districts, so
Thank you.
especially with TK.
And then our next slide focuses on professional development, which has been huge and something that's definitely improved and changed since the district took over BAS. So we utilize all three of the teacher work days and the PD days. All the BAS staff get together, we all meet at a site, and we have trainings and meetings on different topics. We have mandatory CPR and first aid training that's offered every year for all BAS staff. We talk a lot about safety and supervision. This year, one of the big focuses has been on program and the activities. So giving staff time to collaborate with each other across the different sites, plan activities, talk about what works at this site, what doesn't work, how we can work together and figure out how to better our program. This past PD day, last week, we got 2 really great trainings from our wellness counselors, which was really amazing. All 4 of them presented to us at Sleepy Hollow. And then we also offer bi-monthly optional trainings for BASC staff on different things like positive behavior strategies, transitions, de-escalation, and planning activities. Those are optional depending on what the staff are interested in or want to learn about. Then some highlights this year are we hired and trained 17 new BASC staff, which is a lot of people. We added 2 new portables at Sleepy Hollow BASC, which we just saw. We also implemented new software, which is called Easy Child Track, which has been really helpful. It kind of streamlines our billing procedures and allows parents to change the programs that they want all on their own account. And we also started using Calendly, which we use for booking drop-ins. So before parents, were saying it's frustrating, we have to email to find out if my kid can come this day or not, if there's space. And now they just can go into Calendly, see how many spaces are available, and book it themselves. They can cancel it themselves, change it themselves, all on Calendly, and then we get immediate updates on that stuff. That's helpful too. We also took over the scheduling of enrichment classes at all 4 elementary schools, which has most importantly improved safety just by ensuring our vendors that are working with students are fingerprinted, have TB testing, which wasn't always the case before. But we've also been able to align the scheduling of that to align with the beginning and ends of months for families using BASC and are enrolled in a program, so they're not having to pay half month this, half month that. But also aligning with the school schedule too and what works best for the students. And then we also have improved our program a lot already. We have added things like karaoke club, yoga club. One site offers Spanish classes for TKK students because many of their staff speak Spanish. And one site's offering monthly carnivals, which all the kids sign up to come that day because it's super fun. And then goals for the future, we want to continue improving our program ongoing so we can continue to offer engaging, diverse activities for our students. This month, we're implementing a homework club for all 1st through 5th grade students at all 4 schools, which will be optional, but we'll also go through the parents. We'll have the parents fill out kind of like a homework contract to say, like, yes, I want my child to do homework, or no, they don't have to. And we'll provide them 30 minutes of a quiet area and adult assistance, pencils, paper, things like that, to get their homework done for those that have busy after-school activities afterwards. We're working on developing and then executing plans to accommodate more TK students or even younger next year. And we're also working on communication with families because we're doing all this behind the scenes work of improving our program and providing more value, but we want families to know that too. They only see the 5 minutes when they pick up their kid and they might not know what their kid's been able to do all day. So we want to be better at communicating through like newsletters. Adding in on principals newsletters, and we have some whiteboards at our sites where the parents give highlights of what we're doing so that they know what's going on. And then some potential challenges coming up for us for next school year is, of course, the projected increase in BASC enrollment, especially with TK students who are even younger. Having a lot of young kids in our care is a big challenge that we're constantly working on. And then with that, to our TK and kinder ratio, we'll go from 12:1 to 10:1. So that's going to require more staff as well. And then with more enrollment, of course, comes the needs for more facilities, especially at Wagner Ranch. But really overall, a lot of our sites, we have to use the NPR a lot more lately because, if it's raining or something, or we have, a lot of kids, we need more space for those students. And then in serving more TK students, we'll just have to adjust our program a lot and offer more staff training so we can assist and support the students more with different needs like toileting or social emotional regulations.
Just add to the facility. So, I mean, Wagner's being our most challenged facility. We just met with HKID in Swinnerton because they evaluated different locations there. And we've narrowed it down. So they're just doing some final costs of what would it cost to add some additional portable, but there so that we can alleviate usage of those classrooms after hours. But it's just really pricey. So just trying to budget that and figure it out, but that's what we're doing. So we just had that meeting last Thursday,
So when will that be coming to the board in terms of a?
February.
What's that?
Coming to the board in February so that we can get it going.
And that
Yeah.
funding comes from,
Developer fees is the initial and then ongoing from Basque. I mean, that's how we set it up at the Sleepy Hollow. The initial setup is a lot more. So that, because it's an expansion due to enrollment, we funded the initial with the developer fees. And then, but the ongoing lease has been coming from Basque itself.
that's great. Okay.
If there's enough revenue coming in.
Right now, it's being supported, but we're not projecting to have enough next year. So that's why we just need to figure out the costs. That's what we didn't have, is ongoing lease.
One question that I had just from having visited all the different bath sites this year is they all have kind of a different feel to them in terms of the amount of things in the rooms for kids to, participate and play and whatever. Just trying to get an understanding of who is kind of, I don't know, organizing what's in each Basque site. I mean, I can get, like Glorietta, for example, feels pretty sparse compared to Sleepy Hollow or Delray.
Yeah, so I mean, when I came last year, it was like, what are we starting with? And kind of building on that. At Glorietta, we actually just hired a new senior leader who's in charge of the TKK room, which is their main room. She's coming from preschool. So I just actually met with her last week about getting more things and defining more spaces for them in there so that we can get everyone up to the same page. We're kind of slowly getting there. But like this year, getting more space at Sleepy Hollow, we had to order a lot more things and bring in more. So me is the answer. Just working with the staff, it's not me. It's like we're a team.
Right. No, I understand. But it'd be great to see kind of that same feel at all of our school sites.
Yeah.
One question I had, by the way, super glad to see about the homework. I think that will be for the kids and the families to have that extra support in a structured way. With these younger 4-year-olds, I mean, there is that sort of period of time, and I think in all the facilities they have their own room before the first graders would be on come. Is there any thought about like trying to provide for any kind of nap or quiet time, since a lot of them will be coming from preschool where that would have been the expectation, or is it just considered to be too logistically complicated? Because it might be there are pros and cons.
So right now, all of our sites provide some sort of quiet time. It just looks differently at each site depending on kind of their kids' needs. I know one site, they like turn the lights off. It's 20 minutes. They can have like a little busy bag kind of activity. They can lay on the ground, on the carpet. They can look at a book. Another site, they play like some calming meditation music and might do like a yoga thing on the TV that's calm. So it kind of depends. And we are trying out many different ways so that we may not be able to offer the like typical nap, but we can offer something that's like calm, peaceful, quiet time just to get them a break.
Yeah.
Actually,
that's the other end of it.
limited, yeah.
Space.
Yeah.
With the cots and.
The cots and the spacing, how do you divide them? Who supervise? Well, I mean, I guess there would be supervision, but it's just it's the rooms.
Yeah, I assume it would look like a
But yeah.
but they're all laid out in their little rats.
If they all do it, yeah.
Yeah, and so, yeah. No, I'm not saying it's an easy logistical challenge. I'm just trying to,
We may have to see what that looks like. There are kids involved.
Maybe a good, highly motivating to get them to that.
Can I just say from seeing where Basque has come from, I mean, so when I was parent club president and the parent club had control of Basque and seeing where it is now, I'm just like how you guys all talk to each other and work together versus every site was just kind of like its own island. And so an experience at one site was completely different. I love this organization and camaraderie and how you guys have these PD days. I mean, it's like night and day. Like, where was this? Why did we not do this? So
It was an adventure.
It was. Thank you for a lot for this. And this data is really helpful and just far more than even last year. And it's come so far in 1 year. I want to echo what Hillary said, because we've also visited the Basques and there does seem to be some disparity on items. Not that stuff is going to make them play any better, but there are things that will, and it's great you have a preschool teacher on board just with some expertise in like, the imagination play and the blocks and whatever. And, there's a lot of things that come with that, including sanitation and that kind of stuff. And similar to that, I think we've seen depending on the site, a different way of even organizing stuff. I would be a terrible Basque employee because I'm not particularly organized, but it's so important to say, like, at the end of the day, this is where this stuff goes and this is where the blocks go and it's labeled. And I think the ones that seem more inviting are the ones that you walk into, after the day and you're like, oh, the blocks are where the blocks go, the dress ups where the dress ups go and all that. So that just pops out as like an area for growth. But overall, I think it's just come so far. So I just want to echo what Hillary said, because I think having visited a few, that's what I noticed. My other shout out was about the math intervention. I know it's going to take place during fast time. And I think that's a really great way to kind of extend the school day a little bit and also provide that support to students who need it. It just popped into my head. I'm sure this is already being done, but math. And then I thought literacy, and I thought, like, to the point of quiet time, like, is it a read aloud that could be done where we're just a little more quiet? Or are there kids who really like to devour books who could be in a book club? Or I'm sure you've thought of this already, but is there a way to weave literacy into that as well, since they're there so long? That's one thought. And then I wanted to say, obviously there's such a big need. The fact that these percentages are as high as they are is amazing. I think it should be marketed. It's amazing. It's like a school plus, and very few communities have pulled this off. So I think it's amazing. My question is really around staffing, and I'm sure that continues to be a challenge because those ratios need to be so low. And I'm guessing there's some turnover year to year. So what has the turnover been look like? If you can speak to that. And then do you know about how many staff members are working both at the school site and then transitioning to Basque in the afternoons, or what's that setup look like?
Yeah, those are great questions. I can't speak on specific numbers, but
We can follow up
this
with
year
that.
we had to hire far fewer staff, even though we hired 17. It was to get our ratios.
Yeah, that's
at
great.
1% turnover. I think the partnership with the district and having staff that work both at the school and with us really helps our turnover and our retention, because they're able to get full-time hours or pretty close to, and they don't want to lose that because they know that's hard to find at a school district.
Yeah.
So that has really helped. And I think as far as who works at both varies at each site. Like at Wagner, I can think of 6 staff that do that. At Delray, 3, just off the top of my head. At Sleepy Hollow, 0. At Gloria, maybe 7. So it really varies.
We'll follow up that number in the board update. There was also questions. The other follow-up is, there were some questions around the budget, like very specific numbers around budgeting. What are the expenditures? Oh, you want to ask it? Yeah, go ahead.
Well, about some of those, I'm just curious to see, like, were the expenditures and the revenues essentially about where we anticipated them? Are there any surprises? And understand if that wasn't the particular focus of this presentation, we would love to just kind of understand that a little bit better, because that was a big question mark as we took it over, because there were going to be a lot of unknowns.
Right. So we'll pull those numbers also and do a follow-up, because some of it is, I think we couldn't compare quite year to year because it hasn't yet not to be the same program. But like last year, we had a significant, well, I wouldn't say profit, but there was a profit. This year we're not expected to have that. So what are the expenses? How much we're bringing in? What does that look like? Are we covering ourselves?
Right, and as we're thinking.
So that's what we'll bring in.
buildings,
Yes.
are we making
Yeah.
sure
I think that's the big thing,
Exactly.
covering ourselves.
So we will we'll follow up with that to the board.
Can you share why the variance there? Why, just if you have a couple of bullet points there now.
Variance from
Of why we made the profit.
more staff,
Mhm.
more staff and higher salaries.
Can you remind me what that?
And then we started paying for the lease on the portable.
Mhm.
I know the rates went up for bus last year, right? Is that,
They did.
what are they now? I'm sorry, I don't have it.
The
Elementary
rates are
or-
based on $8 an hour for first through fifth grade and $9 for TKK.
Okay,
And I think what makes it more expensive though, that's notable, is it's no longer pay for what you use. It's sign a contract at the beginning of the month for the number of hours you're gonna, you want to buy it. You have a contract for it.
Yeah.
You set up a
So-
program, yeah.
Parents responding to that change, it is a better system, easy tracking, it's much better as someone who's a user. I appreciate that. But how has that been, in response, the community response to that change in the contract, and they can adapt every month?
I think in the beginning it was a scary change,
Mhm.
but now I haven't honestly heard any negative feedback in
Yeah.
a few months. I think it's scary to go into something and now they see that it's easy and they can really do change month to month or
Mhm.
cancel and come back. Where at another program that's licensed, you would never be able to do that. I think it's been going really well. I've heard only positive.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, this item was just up for discussion.
So we have some follow-up items and
Yeah.
then we'll send those out.
Thank you so much for all your work on this. It's
Yeah.
really incredible to see the growth.
I also want to say thank you for doing the professional development. I think that's also really unique that you're providing that for after school care, and I'm sure it's going a long way just by scheduling that in.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you,
I
Kiva.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, on to our next discussion item, 25-26 budget development calendar, Sarah and Tabitha.
I will apologize. Oh, sorry. English learner program, I'm sorry.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's wrong.
that
I
is wrong.
apologize. That's
Yeah.
our mistake. English learner report by
Oh.
Tabitha.
Tabitha,
You don't
yeah.
have to defend, you don't have to defend. Sorry.
That's okay.
Are we, we're getting there.
There are some errors in board docs.
Yeah, we, had some, board docs kept bringing, agenda items this morning from like future meetings.
Oh.
Other
And there's-
districts experienced blanked agendas.
Oh, no.
So,
There is a notice now on those docs.
there notice now that there's
It told me
mistakes?
that there might
There
be.
is.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
there's missing documents too.
Or it said you might be slow loading something for me. It's-
So when we print on one day, it looks differently, so. Hi Tabitha, but we're excited to have you here. Sarah, do you want to?
Yeah, so thank you for being here, Tabitha. We are so excited to hear from Tabitha, who will be sharing our report on our English language learner program, and she'll review some of the exciting data and what our assessment process looks like and all the fun stuff. And we'll have some time for questions throughout, either at the end or throughout, whatever works for the board.
Absolutely. Hello, I'm an English language development teacher for the Orinda district, and I work at all 5 schools. It's wonderful. Thank you for being here, and I'm excited to share some data and information. You'll see there are some changes from last week, so it's always great to have this platform to get to tell you about visit for our students. Thank you very much. Go down. So who are our students within our program and what languages do they speak? So I think it's important to recognize that this graph here, it gives data on our students who are within our English language program. So this is not covering our entire district. This graph here shows the different languages that are spoken within our English language program. There's always a few changes from year to year. As we know, students move, students exit the program and you're not. But since I've been here for the past, this is my 3rd year, and since I've started in the program, the majority of our students are Chinese speaking students. And so you can see there, that's our largest population within our program. Following that is Russian, and then you can see a variety of other languages here of multilingual students within our program. This year, we've got a few new languages such as Italian, Thai, and an uptick in our Spanish-speaking population as well. And so I always think it's wonderful to highlight the multilingualism that we see within our district. I also think it's important to note that what this graph represents is not necessarily where students were born. It represents their home language. So, many of these students were born in the United States, but they're brought up in bilingual, multilingual homes. So the vision for our English learner program, this is our end goal. This is really what we focus on. Our goal is to celebrate multilingualism as a strength, an asset, and we strive to help students achieve English proficiency as quickly as possible, but also without cutting any corners. We want to make sure students are proficient in all 4 domains: reading, writing, speaking, listening. We are committed to fostering academic excellence, linguistic growth, socio-emotional well-being, an inclusive and culturally responsive environment. I'm very appreciative to Sarah, as well as the multitude of people that help me, as well as our teachers who do such a fabulous job teaching our students every single day, whereas I do not see students I see students every single day, but I don't see the same students every single day. And so we all kind of work as a team to really ensure that we're moving students quickly but proficiently throughout the program year after year. And you'll see some data after this to kind of give you a better idea of what that looks like here in Orinda. So you'll also notice a lot of acronyms throughout the presentation, and I will always explain them to you. So up top, you can see this slide here is going to show you how students qualify for the program. And there's a very direct legal process in how students qualify. So prior to enrollment, this does not need to be before the first day of school, although majority of students, it is before the first day of school. We have students that enter mid-year, and so before students enroll, they are to fill out what we call the home language survey. It's 4 questions that they answer. Those 4 questions determine whether or not students will need to be assessed with the initial LPAC. The LPAC stands for English Language Proficiency Assessment of California. It is the state test. The initial LPAC and the summative LPAC are the 2 required state tests that students need to take in order to graduate and progress through the program. The initial LPAC is called the initial LPAC because it's a test that they initially take. So whether the student started on the first day of school or whether they started, I had a student recently join at the beginning of January. So whenever a student enrolls, and Artist has sent through the home language survey through our testing system, TOMS, and through CalPads and whatnot, the initial LPAC is taken within 30 days of enrollment, and that must be done within those 30 days of enrollment, and it's always based on the home language survey. I'm going to give some more information about what the initial LPAC looks like, but overall, it's the initial test that we use to see if students will qualify for the program. And there's kind of a direct process that goes below that, and I will explain more about that. The summative LPAC is taken by every single English language student in the spring. So I recently, completed my training for that. And in a couple of months, we will begin administering the summative LPAC to our English language students. English language students in the program take the summative LPAC every single year until they are graduated, or what we call reclassified from the English language program. Okay, so what is the English Language Proficiency Assessment of California? So in a little bit more detail, the initial LPAC and the summative LPAC, there are a few differences between the 2. Like I said, it has to do with when they take it, how often they take it, as well as the length of the test and the difficulty of the test. The initial LPAC evaluates students' proficiency in the 4 domains: listening, speaking, reading, and writing, to determine English language skills and eligibility for language support in schools. So again, this is administered, let me go back. Students will only take the initial LPAC 1 time. That is the only time they will take it. If they qualify for the program, which means they scored either a 1 or a 2 on the initial LPAC, they qualify for the program. Students that score a 3 on the initial LPAC do not qualify for the program, and we consider them initially fluent English proficiency, or IFS, another acronym for you. The summative LPAC is an annual test, meaning that students, like I said, within the program take the summative LPAC English Language Proficiency Assessment of California. They take it every single year, beginning in the spring. The summative LPAC is, I would say it's quite a bit longer than the initial LPAC. And it also has a little bit more difficult than I would say the initial LPAC is, because it's administered at the end of the year and it's based by grade level. So kindergarten has its own LPAC, first grade has its own LPAC test, second grade has its own LPAC test, third through fifth grade, which I find this kind of interesting, takes the same LPAC test. Sixth graders through eighth graders also take the same LPAC test. So if you're a sixth grader, you take the same test as an eighth grader would. If you're a third grader, you take the same test as a fifth grader would, right? But they do have more individualized tests for kindergartners, first graders, and second graders. To go into more detail about the summative LPAC, so it's the annual test administered to English language learners in California to assess their progress in the English language program on the same 4 domains. So listening, speaking, reading, and writing. And I would just say that each domain is a little bit longer than the initial LPAC. I would say the summative LPAC, if you look at like the average testing times, the summative LPAC is like the average time is around 2 hours long, where the initial LPAC is around 1 hour long. So you can see there's sort of a difference in length, which also contributes to, a difference in difficulty as well. The scoring is also different for the summative LPAC. So whereas the initial LPAC only has 3 levels that you can score, the summative LPAC has 4. So students can score a 1, 2, 3, or a 4. Students that do score a 4 on our LPAC are eligible for graduating the program, or what we call reclassifying from the English language program. And I will give you some more detail about that as well. Okay. So the initial LPAC can be given at any point in the year to a student that enters our district. I recently I'm actually in the process right now of administering initial LPAC at a school right now. So that student is actually not up there right now, but you can see here that we had fairly, honestly, compared to my first 2 years here, we had like lower numbers, it seems like, for the initial LPAC. So we had 4 students who scored a 4. We had 4 students who scored a 1. Those students are now within our program. We had 3 students who scored a 2, which we would call an intermediate level, where a 1 is a novice. And then initially fluent English proficient, which is a level 3, we had 6 students not test into our program. So while another language is spoken at home, they may speak another language, they may be hearing another language, they did not test into our program. So you can see a total of 13 students here. And, in a couple of days, we'll have 15 students who have taken it.
Am I moving?
Yes, perfect, thank you. So this is actually very new, okay? So new for the 2024-2025 school year. Back in June, Gavin Newsom signed Bill 2268. And this bill is new for all of our students in California. And it only applies to students in California. So what this does is the bill was signed, which exempts all TK students from taking the LPAC exam. All TK students whose home language survey indicates a home language other than English are now being assessed at the start of kindergarten rather than at the start of TK. This is different than my past 2 years working here, where I did administer the LPAC to TK students. The TK LPAC was the same test that our kindergartners took, right? 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds are very different. They're at a very different level a lot of times when coming into school. And so what this has done is it's prevented over-identification of our 4-year-olds that could be entering our English language program. It also allows for developmentally appropriate language instruction in the student's regular TK classroom. So, post knowing that this went through, I work with TK teachers very directly, as I know the students who will be assessed next year in kindergarten. However, TK is such a year where all students are building their language skills, whether English is your home language or not, all students are developing those language skills. Not to mention the kindergarten LPAC was deemed developmentally inappropriate by our education officials of the state. Therefore, the TK students this year are not taking the LPAC. And I think I think we could tell this was kind of coming in sitting in the meetings and the different Zoom things that I do throughout the year. We could kind of see an outcry for the over-identification of our TK students and how that was impacting a lot of our programs. And so this bill was signed and it was moved very quickly. And by the start of this year, I had known that TK students will not be taking the LPAC. And so it really relies on me to just have close communication with teachers, getting to know students because they could be my students next year that are in small groups and whatnot. And so this is new. And I'm happy to answer any questions about that as well. Okay, so just to give you sort of an outline, I think I've said, quite a bit of this before, but this just gives you a little bit of a visual. So we know the initial LPAC is administered by me. In fact, just so we're aware as well, I administer all the LPAC tests within our district. You have to be trained and calibrated in order to do it. So I administer the initial LPAC. From the initial LPAC, there are two things that can happen. A student could score a 1 or a 2 and could qualify for the program, or they could be deemed initially fluent proficient. If they're deemed IFEP, the student does not receive services and they are not in the program. If a student does qualify for the program, they then receive services throughout at least that school year, and then they take the summative LPAC sort of towards the end of that school year to measure their level of English language development. From there, if the student has met the reclassification criteria, they are graduated from the program. And, like you saw a couple weeks ago, we had our ceremony here. And so you got to see a handful of our students that were graduated. But if not, the student will stay in the program for the next school year. They will not take the initial LPAC again, but they will just take the summative LPAC again at the end of the year. Okay, so like I said, I work at all 5 school sites. Right now, we have 46 students, possibly 47. We have 6 students at OAS. Most of these students are newcomers. We've had quite a few newcomers enter at OAS, which is very exciting and very fun for me. I love getting to teach English from the very start. I find that to be very fun. So we've got 6 students at OAS, 8 students at Glorieta, 13 students at Wagner, 12 at Sleepy, and then we've got 7 students at Del Rey. So if you were to look at my schedule, which I know, Aida, you have access to, Sarah, and if anytime board members, if you'd like access to my schedule or anything like that, I try to kind of see, I always get the emails of when you're going to be at the different school sites, and it never lines up with my schedule. That's okay.
It's really hard to figure out how in the world to get to.
I'm sure it is, because I'm kind of all over the place. But if you were to take a deeper look at my schedule, you would see it's proportionally divided to the amount of students that are in school. It's not necessarily evenly distributed because we have less students at certain schools, but no one's too much of an outlier. So like Wagner, for example, I'm spending a day and a half there because I know that I've got a few more students. Glorieta, I'm spending mainly just one day, but I do pop in a little bit towards the end of the day on Wednesday. Del Rey, I'm there, for Wednesdays, and so at OAS, I'm there quite a bit in the afternoon, which works out because they get out a little bit later, so I can kind of pop over there later. And then Sleepy, we've got, a similarly high number where I'm there a day and a half. But rather than also just looking at the number of students, it's also important to remember the levels of each of those students. And so it's really important to give our students who are a level 1 a little bit more of that extra push. And so if a student is at a level 1, I'm seeing them at least once a week.
if a student has no English, they're a newcomer who's coming in with little to no English, and they need translation a lot, just those beginning stages, I really try to see them 3 times a week.
You're a schedule magician, Tabitha.
Yes, it's like a puzzle.
Yeah.
For sure. All right, so, this was actually developed, I think, last year. I didn't actually make this graph. It's awesome, but I didn't make it. Somebody made it, and I was like, cool, this looks great. I'm gonna pop this in the presentation. This is our reclassification criteria. It's different for our primary students, and it's different for our 3 through 8 students. Okay, so first, we look at, did they score a 4 on the summative LPAT? If they didn't score a 4, they're not up for reclassification. So I can just leave that where it is. But if a student does score a 4, we then look at more criteria. So I talk to teachers, I get an idea, oftentimes in writing. Well, actually, it has to be in writing, excuse me, always in writing, a teacher evaluation and recommendation. That's usually not just one conversation, it's a conversation that happens, over the course of a couple of months just to get a better idea. I'll do some observations in the classroom just to make sure that student is meeting those needs as well. But really, it just takes time to talk with the teacher, get a better idea of how they're doing within the classroom. But more so than that, really, we're looking at their reading and writing scores. We're looking at their phonics scores. We're looking at their writing scores, their on-demand scores. All of those things come into play. And students need to be at grade level in order to be reclassified. We're not reclassifying students who are below grade level, especially around the K through 2 area. So you can see they have to meet or exceed the grade level district benchmark through F&P, Acadians, and their literacy benchmarks. Once students have to start taking CAS, we look at both. We look at their CASP scores from the prior year. Students need to have met the CASP standard in order to be reclassified as well. So they need to score a 4 on the LPAT. They need to have a teacher recommendation, and they also need to have, to have met the CASP standard. And then also in grades 3 through 8, we can look at their district benchmarks, which oftentimes do align directly with CASP. Sometimes they don't, and that might be needed just like a further conversation. Most of the time, though, they do, and it's an easy pick up and go. But a lot of times, there just needs to be a further conversation there. But if students are meeting the grade level district benchmark and they're meeting CASP, that student is ready to be reclassified. And then there's always a parent-guardian consultation that takes place. So that just requires a meeting or a phone call to present the parent with that information, hear their thoughts about their student exiting the program, and that's sort of the last final step in exiting students from our program. So this year, you can look at our summative LPAC growth from, this is from the last spring summative LPAC, as I have not given the LPAC this year. So my apologies for the, I meant to say 2020, the prior year, so excuse me. But please know that this is from the summative LPAC the year before. So we had 83% of students increase by 1 level or more. So within those 83% of students might have moved up 2 levels, or they might have moved up 1. Not often do we see students go from like a 1 to a 4, but we see many students go from a 2 to a 4 or a 3 to a 4. And so 83% of those students did increase their score and increase in their level of English proficiency. And this year we had 12 students who were reclassified as fluent English proficient. We can go next. Okay, so this gives you an overview of when I started. So I started teaching here in 2022. And that year we had 5 students reclassified with 51 students within our program. It was a big number of students that year. Last year, I reclassified 9 students, and I was left with 49 students in our program. And then this year, we were classified 12, and I am currently working with 46, possibly 47 students within our program. The darker portion there is RFEP, which stands for reclassification. The lighter blue stands for limited English proficiency, which are students within the program.
Actually, reclassification is a mandated metric from the state. They want to see that we're reclassifying students at an appropriate rates and not keeping them as English learners. While it's okay to give students extra support, sometimes in secondaries, that is like an extra class. So then you're not taking you're not advancing in certain courses, or you're not taking electives. And then also you want to make sure you're not overrepresented in your special education. So when we come back in February for mandatory mid-year LCAP progress, we'll actually report out on where are we in making our goals or reclassification criteria, which is also a testament to the ELD program that Tabitha is running, is to make sure that we're actually progressing enough students to reclassification. So we monitor that actually really tightly.
Students who have been in the program for like 6 years or more, we consider them long-term English learners. And so that is a new acronym for students who have been in the program for an extensive period of time.
Are the years on this chart, sorry, I'm trying to
Yeah,
understand. Because you'd said on the prior slide that it should have been 23, 24. So are these not matched up either then on?
No, so
Didn't we
I'm
just
sorry.
have 12 kids reclassified
We did, we
meetings
just did.
ago?
So you're saying that's for, okay,
I'm sorry, I think I may have missed.
With last year's test reclassifying for
for
this
this
school
year. I just want to understand. Okay, thank you.
This is super exciting. I really want to thank Sarah Acosta Landry for really just peddling our new curriculum forward. I have been lucky enough to receive an amazing curriculum from National Geographic. It's called Reach Higher. This curriculum from National Geographic, it's designed to address the unique needs of English language learners, provides a rich, engaging environment where they can learn language alongside academic content. So it does a really good job of balancing the basics of English and the progression of language that students need to learn, along with academic content that students are learning within grade levels. What I really love about this curriculum is that it is different than the curriculums that you see within the classroom, which are based on grade level. The REACH curriculum is a little bit different. So it's classified 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B, 3A, 3B, and I have all the way up to 4A. And those numbers are not based on grade level. They're based on English language proficiency, which really aligns with LPAC. So that's just wonderful to have. I brought just a sample so I could just show you what it looks like. So each level comes with an extensive online resources. And then, so there's the teachers. So this is the 3A. So this would be used with typically, I mean, right now I'm using this with a range of 3rd through 5th graders. So it comes with a teacher's book, which aligns with a really nice, colorful, and some of the the stories and the alongside grammar, everything is just really wonderful. So this is the 3A book. It comes with a student book. Sure. And it also comes with a practice book, which has lots of different alongside resources for students to work on. And like I said, it has an amazing Align program as well. And, I've been really wanting something like this for a while. And when I told Sarah my vision for what I had, and, for the past 2 years, I've been looking into curriculum and what I felt our students really needed, she just paddled it forward. She was like, let's do it. And she collaborated with me. She looked at this with me. And she trusted me to make the right choice. And we collaborated together to ensure that our students have the necessary resources that they need in order to meet that English language proficiency level. So it really combines the power of visuals, real-world context, interactive tools, creating an immersive language learning experience that fosters both language development and academic success. So thank you. Very wonderful. And thank you and I just want to thank Angel, is you, for you as well. I know you support me quite a bit, and Aida too. And also a big shout out to Artist Atkins, who does so much to help me within this process. I feel like I'm emailing Artist, bothering her all the time, and she's always so helpful and on it. And she answers any of my questions around like the data and the CalPads and the TOMs and the things that I'm, not the best at. And she has just been absolutely amazing in helping me throughout my process. So big shout out for her for everything that she does too. Thanks for saying that.
All right, well, great. Thank you so much for that comprehensive
Yeah,
report. That was
thank you.
amazing. I love your energy and your passion, and it's amazing. And we do know just from previous presentations and seeing your students that it's making a difference, and you're doing a wonderful job. So thank you for that. This item is up for discussion. So comments from.
I just want to second what Etta just said. I mean, I'm so appreciative for your energy, like seriously, around this, and just just how much you care about these students really just shows through. So thank you.
Ditto, of course. Your energy's amazing. I have one question. I don't know if you'd be able to answer it now, and it's just more curiosity. How often do students get a 4 and, up for reclassification, but they're not at grade level, and so they continue in the program? How often does that happen?
Question. In fact, I actually could pop up an exact number for you. I went back and looked at my spreadsheet. It's not often. This year, actually, I can almost remember exactly. This year, we had 14 students who had a 4, and 2 of those students did not meet the reclassification criteria. Prior to that, I do not remember, but that's a pretty close margin. The 14 students, 12 were reclassified. That gives you a general idea of year to year. And there are other factors that play into students not being reclassified, like I said. But it's never, with 3 through 8 students, like it's never based on, like if they turn in homework on time. It's not based on behavior or anything like that. It's strictly academic. And so, like I said, this year we had like 2 with between the margin there.
Okay. Yeah. And then I'd never heard the term long-term ELD students.
LTELs, yeah, they're called.
What happens just in our education system? How long do they stay? Or is it often like, again, they're passing the test, but they're not quite at grade level? I assume then there's other supports that are brought in. But what does that look like for a student who remains?
Yeah, so oftentimes these are level 4 students who have not met the grade level expectation. And oftentimes the grade level expectation based on per teacher or based on, the difficulty of the CASP test. It can cause differentiating there. It's not common for our district to have long-term English language students. We're very far and few between. A lot of times there is a special education factor in play, even times an attendance factor in play, like just not being here very much. And so there are a couple of different reasons, but the population of our LTELs is very low. And Sarah and I are always closely looking at that and trying to look at the data and see, is there something else going on, or is this strictly language-based? Yeah.
So we can pull that data for you too, the number of LTELs, because we have to monitor that as well. But in California, for the most part, they're actually usually born in the state. So it's not even necessarily.
I'm not even insinuating that is. I just want.
No, I'm just saying like that's what it's generally what's happening. With the special ed piece, that is an issue with regards to not understanding how to tease out what's a disability and not being able to do the test, or and language proficiency. So there are ways that you can actually not meet all 4 of those qualifications if you have an IEP, and it can be a team decision by you making the test if you are a student with an IEP, if you can tease that out. It's a complicated process, but it does. I mean, just to tease out, because you want to make sure that those students stay and receive services. But LTEL or long-term English learners in California is a population of really considered at risk, because they are just continuously sitting in this non-proficient language. And it's pretty high across the state.
Are usually students that will present as fluent, right?
Sometimes too, is it,
And
they
I'm-
can't take the test,
right, it's
and you
gonna
don't
be
know why and what's
Usually a
going on.
disconnect around academic language and the academic rigor.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
Any other questions? Comments? Oh, thank you, Tabitha. Thank you, Sarah. This was amazing.
Thank you both. Thank you, Tabitha. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Public, grab your.
Thank you to you, Tabitha, thank you. You are amazing at what you do.
Thank you, Tabitha.
Yes.
You support a
Yes.
really wonderful group of students and really appreciate your hard work. That's good. That's a lot of them. We'll try and share the schedule so that if you are on campus, you can hop in.
Yeah.
I've tried to do it, but it's a mystery. It's like a Winchester's Mystery House. It's also.
No, it's hard, but I
Tabitha's
do
Mystery
look
House.
forward to just seeing you around campus. And is it true that you're all sort of designated to your own?
Yeah, for our site visits, maybe there's a way for us to peek in if possible.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
Just let me know.
We'll work on, Angel and I will work on something.
We'll hopefully see you,
Yeah.
again this year as well.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we're moving on to item 9, Measure E and I implementation, change order. Yeah, change order. And this item is on for action. Kevin?
So the MBC is seeking a no-cost contract extension to February 28th, 2025 due to supply chain issues and ongoing punch list work. The contract's original end date was December 31st, 24, but they need a bit more time.
Public comment?
There's no public comment.
Any discussion, comments from the board? Okay, yeah.
No additional.
Oh, someone have a motion?
Larry, I move that the board approve Macmillan Data Communications change order 0.
Katie, I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Moving on to item B, proposal for architectural services, 30s Wing OAS modernization. This is on for action. And Stuart.
Yeah, the modernization of the OIS 30 wing is as part of the Measure E and I. The project scope's been finalized and HKID has provided their proposal, which includes going through the design phase, the bidding phase, construction closeout, culminating in a DSA certification. So the recommendation is to approve their proposal.
This item is on for action. Any public comments?
There's no public comment.
Okay. Any comments, discussion for the board?
Is the drawing that's in here, is that meant to be the final,
Sorry?
the drawing that's in this, it's the packet, the attachment, is that meant to be the proposal for that area?
This is the scope.
That's
This is the project scope that is.
Right, but in terms of what's laid out here,
It's like student
the book storage, the student dining,
So that is our,
That's the
sorry, I don't,
the area?
can.
That's really what my question is.
I had to say,
There it is. Yeah, so there's a wall being proposed to that, there's a staff room, the old staff room right here.
Right.
Workroom. So that wall is getting removed. There's an additional door being,
I think the question is,
I'm sorry, go with.
it's more like, is it decided that this is the way what we want to do with this space?
I think there was a discussion at the board meeting that this was going to be in, at the BET meeting as well, and this was, and then at the OIS as well. So this was.
I guess this is my first time actually seeing a
Oh, okay.
drawing of this, or.
Like, why do we have so many offices?
That was.
Because we didn't have enough money to take them out.
What are they being used for?
So, the offices here, so I'll just go kind of by section,
Yeah,
if that's okay?
Thank you.
The red offices right here. The reason we can't actually move any of these is because there's a network and firewall and all sorts of other equipment that is installed in the walls. So we can't move those anywhere. No, so none of those walls can be moved. So we've actually moved the IT department, who didn't have any offices at all, and we're working out of the libraries there. So that they're already moved there. So we've made that really a centralized IT offices.
That's the red.
Yes.
Smart.
The blue offices, there is actually removal of a wall. There's, oh, right here somewhere, because it's not a full wall, so they can just take that down. And that was the old front office. There was not much to do there because you can't turn it into an additional eating area and can't quite make that into anything else. First of all, they don't have true HVAC system, true ventilation. So every single one of those, if we convert it into something else, comes with all of those conversions. So we are using it as food service offices right now. So we thought we could use that too. When we were discussing what could that be used for is there's no centralized book storage. I know that sounds weird, but those rolling books like schools have, because that can actually be a really big cost savings eventually if your books are not everywhere all over the campus and you tag them and scan them and have them there as part of the system.
Just a quick question on that. If there's not proper HVAC, do you want to be storing books?
No, they don't, there's ventilation system, but just not for like people to work in there the entire time.
Okay, just think about humidity or.
Yeah, no, it's just not for like us to be sitting in there the whole time like this. And then the other side, what we heard from students repeatedly was there's no room, there's nowhere to sit. Indoor.
Yeah.
So as we were trying to remove all of these walls, but we couldn't because that triggers modernization for the bathrooms, remove all broilers rooms, and there's just not enough funding to do that. So, that there's one wall being removed to expand this and turn it into I will call it like a mini NPR with kind of creative furnituring. It's almost, I don't want to call it a bar seating, but counter seating. So you can fit, at least close to maybe like 100 students for eating purposes. And then that is an old office space. The staff was saying that, we do have special ed staff like psychologists, OT, speech person that are in these little rooms all over the campus that could actually have a office is there. A centralized location in the old counseling area. So the only upgrades would be like we want to put HVAC in here. So that's what, for the students. There has to be double door
Double doors for
the flow. Yes. But otherwise, really, we'd be putting in like window units. No, we wouldn't be installing HVAC, big machines into the offices.
There were currently 2 classrooms there.
Well, those are staying. That's beyond.
Oh, that's
up
Yeah.
yeah.
This is just all the staff area that.
It's really the old offices.
New building.
Anything like we can't remove any walls in between because they're holding up the building. We can't remove this wall because it's some firewall thing. We can't remove anything more around because it triggers the bathrooms and there's no more Measure E&I money.
So students would still go get their food from.
Yeah, they can just go in there and it's an extra eating area.
On a
for them.
rainy day or any
A
day?
rainy or smoke day or any
Okay,
day.
great.
Yeah.
Need more supervision with that?
That would add supervision.
Also, who gets to use it and who does?
Well, that was my other question.
We haven't gotten there in the Measure E&I. That's like a different conversation.
Yeah. That was one of my questions.
And then the capacity you think would be around 100?
Well,
And
I
that's the other
mean,
thing,
depending
that's
on
not
the,
having space.
I think it's a capacity of like 70 or something, or 80.
Oh.
We're thinking we can do more with, without like traditional furniture.
Are there like clubs and stuff?
The clubs can meet, exactly, and they were saying even after school, they could be used for after school. It could be a bigger area for staff, meetings after school or some sort of things like that. And so it's true like a NPR.
Mhm.
I mean, really, when we were designing, we were limited by funding. And the one use that the one need that kept coming up was indoor eating. And this is as big of a space as we could create.
Really too bad we can't just have a kitchen attached.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah,
whole, the funding for
next
it, like that, yeah, that would be nice to have that all with one location.
The kitchen is
It's not that far.
here,
Yeah.
right there. Well, I mean,
Another building. It's the next building.
right, but they
Yeah.
don't have to.
No, I
go
know, but
in
you
the main. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agreed. We used to have a kitchen attached to an NPR. I don't know. It's now a yoga room.
Yes.
This item is on for action. Any public comment? at all?
Can
Any
you
more?
remind me what the budget is for this again? Or should I go look it up?
1.5 million.
That's
That's the total budget for this, like 1.3 million, 1.3 million.
200.
And we're
That's
setting
including
200 right now, right?
Yep, that's the soft costs.
That's the-
So that
Oh,
is
okay.
all the engineering, DSA.
Yeah.
Design, yes.
Included in the
It's a million
1.2.
left.
Correct, yes.
And when is-
In that budget of 1.2, that was budgeted in. part of
I
it.
assume so. I was just
Yes.
wondering where we are
Yes.
cutting it down and.
Correct.
Yeah.
When is it projected to start?
We were
You
saying
have-
fall,
this-
end of
it's
summer.
gotta go through DSA, so ideally, if it goes through DSA, we would start in the fall and actually be able to do a lot of.
Spring school year. This does not have to be a summer project. We can work on it.
This is-
Yeah.
Would you move the other classrooms then temporarily that?
I don't, they were hoping that maybe if they can like tear down the wall at the end of the summer, before kids come back, that's the biggest noise. Everything else they think they can do during the school year without much.
Not too much.
Nothing will be as noisy as like what Sleepy Hollow went.
Right.
Right, you just have classrooms that are right there, yeah.
So even that kind of work, like if there was something like, demoing, we could do hopefully before school, if not on a weekend. And
There's been this
everything else gets,
swing shift or something after school.
Correct.
So getting,
just to get the demo done.
Right, and I assume some sort of partition.
Yes, there would be a partition in the hallway to close it off.
And does that include furniture then for the?
Yes.
thing?
Yes.
Books.
It's not
Can't remember.
design, no.
I'm sorry, does not include furniture.
And where would that?
That's my question. too.
I think out of Measure E and I eventually from like the interest, yes. So it would also be out of Measure E and I.
Oh,
Yeah.
The office areas already have that
That's
furniture because
Not-
people are in there
yes.
now.
that's still in there, the old stuff, yeah.
This-
And these are new bathrooms?
No, we're not.
Existing,
redoing-
but are we
They're
redoing?
Actually being covered are they covered by ADA modernization, Stuart, at some point?
Pretty old.
These are old. If you look at
Yeah.
the tile, it's an upgrade, but not re.
Right here, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're being covered as part of that accessibility modernization.
For the office with all the wire and hardware, do we need to bring in HVAC for any of that?
Yeah,
or-
we're doing window units,
Okay,
not like, split systems.
so that, okay.
That's what they're looking into as they bring in the new window.
Any other discussion
So
or
we just had
comments?
this meeting, so it's fresh in my mind.
This item is on for action. There are no public comments. So can I have a motion, please?
This is Katie, I move that we approve the proposal from HKIT Architects for services related to the modernization of the OIS 30s wing.
This is Vanita, I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you, Stuart. Thank you. Moving on to communications and announcements, CSEA and OEA.
We don't have CSEA here, but Charles from OEA.
Hey, President. Great to see everyone tonight. School board members, wonderful administrators. We had a great rest break. Oh, we all needed it. It's kind of a magical time of the year. We notice when we come back, the kids are tired the first day, but then wow, with all this growth, I think their brains had a chance to rest and they're just ready to get filled up again. So it's been super exciting to have our council meeting tonight. We're getting such positive comments about how well our schools are running, our admin being so supportive, just everybody working together. So we're just appreciative to be here with these kids and really doing well. Already people are mentioning that our trimester for K-5, for TK5 is coming up February 28th and followed by that the quarter ends at OAS in March 17th. So already we're like, whoa, time for assessments, but it's good. This time of year, we always see tremendous growth. It's exciting. Fewer worries. They're going to make it to the finish line and do amazing. So yeah, it's good. It's time. I've been involved in the budget committee meeting. It's been great to take a deep dive into all things budget in the district. involving all, our parent stakeholder groups, OEA, CSEA, ops staff, like Bobby, my ops manager is there. And just great to really get a ton of understanding of the district's budget. That's important. And then be able to move forward with some solutions like, are we gonna get through? There's lots of expenses, not enough money from the state. So we'll have to roll up our sleeves and figure it out. So that's exciting. Thank you, Aida, for spearheading this. It's really eye-opening. Like, you think you know a lot, and then you sit down and you delve deep into it and you realize there's some things you didn't quite understand. So it's been helpful. Negotiations is going well. It's been very collaborative. We had a training followed by had 3 sessions so far. We have 2 more scheduled. We'll schedule more if we need to. But it's been collaborative. We're getting to the point where we're coming up with some options for things. There haven't been any kind of commitments yet, but some really creative ideas, many of which don't cost money, which is always nice. But it's a great group of people who really want the best for the district. And so we're trying to figure out, we don't have the heavy load that we've had in the past, so it's kind of nice. Topics haven't been too heavy. And so we do see it in sight. So really looking forward to getting through that. Thank you, Mika, for all your presentations and also Aida, I appreciate it. Been instrumental and explain to, we have a couple of new members on our bargaining team, not very familiar with the budget, and they felt really good. They understood the presentation, so thank you. That's about it. Looks like we're gonna get out early tonight, so they cut this short. Thanks again, drive safely, and may all those in Los Angeles be in our thoughts. And I've been trying to gather some supplies. I got about 30 pounds of coffee that I'm gonna be sending down myself. I'm going around gathering coffee. I know that's always something that people love to have.
Yes.
You want to keep those firefighters awake, so I'm gonna do my part, and I look forward to everybody trying to do their part too to help our Southern California friends and family and people down there. So they're in our thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. Cabinet updates?
I'll just say quickly, thank you, Charles. And on that note, I'll just say, we're devastated by what's happening in Los Angeles, and clearly that's on everybody's mind. We are starting to actually get students enrolled here that are coming up and staying with their families, either due to evacuations or loss of home. So we are starting to see that already and are anticipating that will increase. So we're going to work.
I think it's true at the high school as well.
Yeah, so we'll work on with our administrators on how to support the students immediately. While they have family here, they are almost treated as unhomed, right? And they need to be placed that day, how to get them supported and what's going on. So we'll do our part as well in making sure that they're supported. We also are getting questions about where people can donate. So in this communication on Friday that comes out of the district, we'll make sure that there's a list that CSBA actually compiled, which was a nice list. And we know those are credible agencies, so we'll send that out to the community if people are looking for that. It's been a great last week. There's just that's being echoed everywhere that parents and students feel really good about coming back to school. It's almost like people need a break from the break. So I think that just felt across our campuses, and we're just hearing that. But we are gearing up in full-blown planning for next year, which is just bizarre. But we started with enrollment last year, 2024 in December. But we're going to actually ping the city to see if they can help us do a push through their notification system for the TK enrollees, as our enrollment is coming in a little lower than what projected. So we want to make sure that that's getting out there to the families that are not on our notification system. So we'll push that out this week. But with the governor's budget being released, our budget planning begins. So there's just we get going for the 25-26 school year. And the last thing I'll say is exciting. On Wednesday, we do in our next communication series. We did budget and free speech last semester. We will, Sarah and Stephanie, for the most part, and myself will be, it's going to be special education or supporting all of our students. So we'll start from kind of MTSS, like tier 1, and really spend most of our time in that tier 3 support. What does special ed look like in our district? Sort of the hot topics, do's and don'ts, and sort of general support for our highest need students. And that kicks off with Sleepy presentation on Wednesday, their staff meeting. So excited about that. And I'll leave it at that.
Okay, any other?
I think we're good.
Yep, great. Updates from the board. We'll start with you, Benita.
Before the break, Aida and I went to go visit Sleepy Hollow, which was great. Got to go to all the different classrooms and meet a lot of teachers and see what everyone was working on. Saw the elevator.
We didn't write it.
I've never seen it actually.
But I hadn't seen the campus all done before, so it was great to see. And then Big Friday, Etta and I and Aida will meet about the nature area.
I don't really have anything to report. I mean, lots of meetings coming up, but nothing really. Oh, I am having coffee tomorrow. A friend of mine actually just started working with our new state senator and talked to me. So I'm meeting with her tomorrow. She wanted to know what's keeping me up at night. So about schools. I am meeting with her, and then otherwise just I think we've got committee meetings and other things.
Yeah, so I mean, we've got a regular Wider Ranch this week, so we get to get back to the swing of all of these things. And then the 2x2 was postponed from this month, and we should be picking this back to next month with the city. So
Similarly, just a lot of meetings coming up. We had our budget committee meeting last week. I went to a POIS meeting this morning. I'm gonna go to a one meeting tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then an OIS visit coming up as well next week, I think.
Thank you. And likewise, committee meetings on Friday should be fun, and just happy to be back. And also wanted to just say and echo your thoughts, and Charles as well, that our thoughts and prayers are with our families and loved ones, everyone in the community that's affected the fires in Southern California. So thank you for sharing whatever it is. I know each school site sent out notes and all of their newsletters, each principal, which was lovely to see, and some are collecting each school site. So that's wonderful to see us rally around the California family. Yeah. With that, we have our content calendar. And items listed under the content calendar are considered to be routine and are acted on by the Board of Trustees in one motion. There is no discussion of these items before the board vote unless a member of the board, staff, or public requests specific items to be discussed and or removed from the consent calendar. It is understood that the administration recommends approval on all consent items. Each item on the consent calendar approved by the board shall be deemed to have been considered in full and adopted as recommended. I have a motion.
This is Hillary. I move that we approve the consent calendar.
This is Katie, I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Next, we have future agenda items.
Okay, so thank you for, we agreed on the dates for the special board meeting on January 24th. I believe that's at 10 in the morning. It's in the middle of the day, right?
I think it's 12 to 2.
Thank you. Okay. So we'll discuss really all things 25, 26, kind of with regards to the enrollment and programming. And then on the February 10th meeting, we'll review the proposed budget. We're going to 2 separate sessions next week, one in Sacramento, one at the county. Then school safety plans and our mandated LCAP mid-year, and then the nature area. March 10th, we get back into second interim. We'll re-swing back into enrollment. We'll hear about a literacy update, and we're bringing that mobile device policy or cell phone policy as committed to the community. So
Great.
plan right now.
Any items board members would like to see on future agenda?
No, I was just.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
And with that, we have adjournment. So with someone, which is really fast today, but I'm not complaining. So,
Well, we have added a whole meeting.
yeah, we did.
Out of here. Pulled
That's
it
true.
into the special board meeting.
We did, we did.
Hillary, I moved that we adjourn.
Okay.
My second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Meeting adjourned.
Here.
Yeah. That's